Railroad?
Yes. Hey, we just got a report that we have a train stopped over near Central Parkway. Right in between there across the Blanchard River.
Okay.
We got a report that we have a train stop right now because they see a naked female body laying in the middle of the track. Appears to be deceased.
This is the story of Vera Joe. The story begins in Findlay, Ohio, Hancock County, at the intersection of Center Street and Taylor. This case is the saddest one yet. It is hard to know the life that this girl was forced to live, that this could happen to anyone, someone like Vera Joe. On March 27, 2011, they found Vera laying on the railroad tracks, stabbed and beaten to death. A train had stopped and called 911 at 2:08 a.m., 5 hours after the murder had taken place. And what is just as tragic as her death was the life she was forced to live.
I mean, she was beat, what I've heard, all day long.
She thinks it's cute of Vera having black eyes and stuff, said she looked like a little squirrel.
Vera was a very sweet girl. She was 24 years old and a loving mother. She loved music, especially Dolly Parton, according to her sister. Vera was mentally challenged. Her mind was equivalent to an 8-year-old child. She was someone who just wanted to help any way she could. She cared for her child, and unfortunately for Vera, she was brought in by a family of manipulators. The Brookses quickly learned that Vera was someone they could take advantage of. Many reports speak of how Vera was treated like a slave in the Brookses' home, and it wasn't long before a long string of abuse, control, and just pure evil would consume Vera, a situation she sadly would never make it out of alive. The system failed Vera Joe, and so did the authorities. In my eyes, everyone failed her, even the people that claim they are the closest. Because how hard would it have been to go to the Brookses' home to check on her and her daughter, knowing her mental stability? How come not one person stepped in at all? This story is wrong in so many ways. Sherry, the adult, didn't even step in to stop them, to stop her own kids from the assault, because it's said that all she wanted was Vera's baby, the baby that was made with Zachary. Nicole and Danny were only together for one short week and murdered an innocent mother, a mother trying to learn herself. Vera needed support, not mental and physical abuse. They used this poor girl. She had no one on her side. She had ultimately no choice but to deal with it. Those people took her in. She felt loved at first, I'm sure, until she gave birth to the baby and started to show the ill will more to her.
And Sherry just came up with an excuse saying that Vera was the one that pushed her own daughter into the coffee table. And Zachary just listened to what she said, went over to Vera, swung his fist and hit her in the face.
She probably thought to herself the whole time that the abuse will hopefully end, and they will start to accept her. But sadly, it ended, just not in the way Vera hoped for.
I had said it's in the Bixler blood. I'm meant to kill, I guess.
Sherry Brooks is the mother, and she's also the mother of Zachary Brooks, Scotty, Garth, and Chucky, and Michael. Shannon Brooks lives there with Michael. She is married to him. Danny is the cousin that got out of jail a week before Vera was murdered and brought his girlfriend, Nicole Peters, who is 17, to live with Sherry and the Brooks family. Vera was raped, assaulted by the Brooks boys on multiple occasions. She was living in terror, and this would ultimately be her biggest mistake of her life, if only someone was there to help guide her. The boys were not alone in the daily abuse. It was so bad that Nicole Peters followed Vera into the bathroom and with her own toothbrush, sexually assaulted her with it, then forced her to put it in her own mouth. Danny and Nicole were said to be openly sexually aroused every time they would hit her. They would abuse her physically, mentally, sexually, and go to their room to have sex. And when they were finished, the abuse on Vera just continued. All happened while a house full of people condoned and attributed to these heinous acts against an innocent girl. They made her sleep in unspeakable conditions. At points, she was forced to sleep in a closet with a pig and among its urine and fecal matter. They even made her drink Zachary's urine out of a cup, the man she loved, trusted, and had a baby with, humiliating her and abusing her on a daily basis. Officers were called to Sherry's house multiple times, more than 20 times in just 2 years, and so was social services, but not one time did they find it unfit. Despite the reports of the house being filthy, and with Sherry's history of neglect and abuse against her own children, this house was in horrible condition. The smell was almost unbreakable to caseworkers doing an inspection. Cockroaches were seen on the walls, animal waste found in multiple rooms, an overall filthy living environment for her baby and herself as well. But every time they came, Vera was made to lie, and Sherry never left her side when they questioned her. They claimed she wanted Sherry there every time. They asked Vera if she was happy. How this was missed is unbelievable to me. Most of us know in cases of suspected abuse, the child is questioned separate from the suspected abuser. However, this did not happen here, because in Vera's case, she was an adult. How her mental disability was not acknowledged by police or legal services is still beyond me. On the day of the murder, mace was sprayed inside the house, and Vera was to blame. Everyone evacuated, and Shannon, who was claiming to be pregnant at the time, went to the hospital. And when she returned, she had claimed to have had a miscarriage due to the mace, what was called the icing on the cake to end poor Vera's life in the eyes of the Brooks' family. Vera had killed Shannon's baby, and that was what sealed her fate. Within hours of this, Vera would be dead. They sat and literally planned it out, and they were overheard by Scotty, deciding where to kill her and where to leave the body. He claims that he didn't take it seriously at the time and felt no need to warn Vera or even help her. But everyone else knew it was coming, and no one tried to intervene. It's supposedly believed because everyone was so scared to step in fear of being assaulted or killed themselves, so nothing was done. Danny and Nicole led Vera out of the house that cold night, almost as if Vera had known. She was so scared, screaming she didn't want to go. She just wanted to stay with her baby. This didn't last long. They all shouted and forced her to get her shoes on and get out the door. Only 2 blocks from the Brooks' home, they walked down the tracks, Vera's last moments closing in on her, a hidden knife, and the people she has lived with walking her to her own death. The first stab to her body, then another, and another, as described by Danny himself. We stabbed her wherever the knife would land. He described in detail how they all took turns just stabbing her, and how the dull knife wouldn't puncture her deep enough through her clothes. They forced her to strip. They forced her to make it easier to kill her. This is evil. I wish we could say it doesn't exist in the world, but it does. They made her strip to her death. They hurt her, humiliated her for the last time. They stabbed Vera over and over and brutalized her and tortured her. Then when you think they did enough, they slit her throat. It's reportedly they actually tried to cut her head off, and as if that wasn't enough, they laid her on the tracks with the intention of her being run over by the train, mutilating her body enough that no evidence of how she died would be traceable. These people are so disgusting and so evil. They let her lie there, to die alone, naked, bleeding and afraid, clinging to the thought of her precious daughter. Poor Vera had enough strength to move herself off the tracks and just curl into a ball. She curled into the fetal position, and that position is known to comfort. Vera was dying alone and scared, but she knew enough to get her body in the middle so she could be found, so they could be found, to show just how evil they were to her. Daniel Bixler was the only one charged and convicted for the murder with a long sentence. Nicole Peters, although she was only 17 at the time, was tried as an adult for her punishment. Only 23 years in prison for all the abuse she inflicted and the death she was a part of. Yes, they are the true murderers, but everyone pretty much in the Brooks' household played a part in the beatings and leading up to Vera's death. They are both able to parole out after their sentence. Zachary was not charged in association with her murder. He was only charged with lying to the police, even though he beat Vera and violated her in many gruesome ways, and knew they murdered her, and didn't stop it. It's even reported that Zachary gave them permission to kill Vera moments before they took her to the tracks. Sherry Brooks was charged with obstruction of justice for her attempt to steer police away from her sons, saying Vera was out with her boyfriend the night of the murder. A sad day for the justice system. It's hard to imagine how these police and public officials can allow such defying evidence against this woman just go uncharged. It seems she has made a lifelong habit of evading prosecution for the many lives she's harmed. We know that since the murder, she was convicted of selling prescription medication, receiving 9 months in prison. We can only hope that her day will come to finally pay for all she has done. I think karma will get the best of this family, and eventually they will all be in jail. When you think of Willadine, she must be around 12 to 13 years old now. I hope she knows that her mother, Vera Jo, put up with a lot to not leave her side. Because I'm sure Vera could have ran away any time she wanted to, living there, but she knew the threat that lived in that home. She wasn't even able to hold her own baby. She was scared to death to even touch her. They had it literally beat into her head not to touch her own daughter, so I'm sure that played a big part in that feeling of being stuck and not to leave Willadine's side and to still have hope, and died having her daughter in her heart. Also, what was so sad in this overall was that the police recovered a note to her daughter stating, "I love you, Willadine. You are a decent baby girl to us. I'm pleased to be your mommy, and I'm happy that I had you on November 4th at 4:16 a.m. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, 19 inches long. Mommy loves you." One day, Willadine will know how strong of a woman her mother was. Vera was only 24 years old. She will not have the time with her baby. She will not have a whole life ahead of her. They took that from her. But her daughter will. Just knowing that her daughter is with a new family makes me so happy. Sherry Brooks is one evil person. She should be in jail right next to her son, suffering just like Vera did. She has no remorse for everything. For everything I read and watched about that family just makes me sick. They are all very guilty, and more should have been done about this case. So thank you for watching and hearing this story. I know that it was a sad one, but it needs to be heard. Please like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss another story.